is how your new transmission tunnel cover is going to look when you receive it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to get inside the car and we're going to put this thing down over the top of the transmission tunnel, and we're going to mark out around the edges of this for making a determination where you're going to make your cuts. Here's some of the tools that are really handy if you're going to do any amount of sheet metal work at all. First one's obviously a nice body hammer. Use a pick or either a pick with like this or a chisel headed backside. This is a pretty standard dolly. You can buy these in most auto body supply stores. This is one of the most used tools in my shop. Just a simple 90-degree angle die grinder. Use a 3M roll lock backup pad. This is a high-speed cutoff wheel. This is I buy these. I buy the 4 inches. 3 inches some is more common, but I find that the 4 inches last much longer than the 3 inch. You have a lot higher surface speed. Now this is just a vice grip that I've modified. They actually make a vice grip that's got a flat ends for working steel. I wanted a little bit heavier set, so I just simply cut myself a couple pieces of metal and clamped them between there and welded them to the vice grip. We use these a lot as well, just for straightening edges and things like that. When you're getting ready to hold these pieces in place, sometimes it's hard to hold metal in place. If you have a little extra material around the edges, you can buy these little self-drilling and tapping screws. This has got a 5/16 head. The holes are small enough where you can easily come back and fill them later if you need to. But we use a fair amount of these here too. Another thing is a cleco. A cleco is just a spring-loaded thing. You could pre-drill a hole, and you put the cleco into place, and it's got a spring-loaded deal that holds the sheet metal together tight. So what we'll do is we'll get this thing put right on there, slip it right over the top, line it up at the back where that hump is in your floor. Slip that right over the top of your, so it's tight in the back, and tight in the front. Now we can take our marker and we can come in and mark all the way around this. I've done the marking all with a silver Sharpie. They work real nice for marking dark surfaces. But at the front and back side, it'd probably be wise to use a scribe. Scribe that line for accuracy. The side lines is not where we're going to make our cut. We've got this thing marked out. You can see the line is about ½ an inch below where we rough cut the flooring out. Now that's exactly what instead you're going to be doing this in a different order. What you will be doing is taking the silver Sharpie line and marking up about ½ an inch. So you're going to leave an extra ½ inch of material there for your initial cut. Once you get the panel in place, get your sides trimmed and squared up, then you'll be able to make your final trim cuts to scribe to fit. I think this will make for a better quality installation. The other way you can do it would be to leave this extra ½ an inch, and that could be, you could use some self-tapping screws or clecos to hold that into place and plug weld the sides in place, and then butt weld the front and back so that you don't have the ugly overlaps underneath, and also for clearance. when we're doing this one, I'm going to butt weld this whole thing in, as the customer wants it to look as though it was there from the factory. So from here on out, I'm going to be doing is welding up the cuts that we had put in earlier, doing the final fitting and adjusting in the sides so that it fits our patch panel. The hole that's in these panels is already located for your T56. So as long as you line up on this back edge, there's a hump here in your stock floor that comes right up to that edge. So this is where we had cut that out. So it's a little hard to see it this time, but you know, we showed that in earlier before we made that initial cut. So I think you'll understand that. You can always know the back side because the back side is already capped. Front side is rounded. Back side is more square. The reason that it's square is because the T56 the rear of your T56 where we need the most clearance is square. And if we make it round, we're going to have a higher rise in that floor, and we're trying to maintain your stock consoles. We've already installed the American Drivelines flywheel and pressure plate and backup rings for the scatter shield. The bell housing is an SFI approved scatter shield from QuickTime. It's modified to mount that T56 right up to your bigger small block setting. Once you have your Tinman Fabrication transmission tunnel into place, I like to use a couple of self-tapping screws in 4 corners to hold it down where it belongs. I'll do is I'll take a scribe and I'll scribe the opening on the edge. Once that is done, we've already fitted the transmission, so we know it's high enough where it belongs. And now we can pull that out, trim it up, weld up our seams. This is our prepared floor. I'm going to zoom in on a couple areas that I did our modifications on. If you remember from the bottom side, I made a couple of dices so we could bend the floor up. There's one right there, another one there, and then right at the transition between the, there's a transition right up in here. That's actually where there was a crease in the floor there. I just made a cut right in there, and with all those edges right now they're bent up, and it's pretty much a straight line from front to back. And once we install our Tinman transmission cover, that will be all very straight, and we're going to get ready to weld up those creases. We'll do a little prep work, weld those up, and then we're going to prep for the installation of the rest of the tunnel. These 2 creases right here, if you remember the low area in the transmission tunnel, it came down, had a dip, and then came back up. There's actually a couple of creases that were right there, and I just made those cuts right in the creases as well. That way I could make the bends without having to fight the sheet metal on the floor. The other side is very similar. It's not quite as bent up quite as far, but I think you'll find that'll be more than sufficient. Here's our transmission tunnel after we got it taken out of the car. We're just going to zoom on this so you can see the scribe lines. You can see those scribe lines there. We're going to cut those scribe lines right to fit, and we will be ready to start welding it into place. This can be done with an ordinary tin snips. I have this electric shear that I prefer. It's much faster and easier. If you're going to do any amount of sheet metal work, this is a great way to get it done. The trick once we get the panel set in place, lined up pretty good front back, just do some tacks, just get some corners, 4 corners tacked, and start splitting the difference, get down in the middle and start working your way down the lines. No sense in trying to do it all at once, so you'll just have warpage and too much movement in the metal. Okay, we have it all butt welded in. Get a closer look at what we got here. We're going to take and we're just going to grind those welds a little bit. We're not going to get too carried away, but we'll seam seal everything up and get some paint on there, and it should be looking as good as new. looking good, and I think we're ready for doing some seam sealing and make sure we don't have any pinholes or leaks. And then we will get some paint on this thing and call it done. It's very important with the T56 transmission that you indicate your center line of your crankshaft to the mount surface, the inside mount surface of your bell housing. The type of bearings in the T56 transmission will not allow a whole lot of run out in that area. So we used a magnetic indicator, the magnetic indicator on the pressure plate, and with an indicator we ran around the outside edges to check our run out in this one. This one, the run out ended up being approximately 4/1000 of an inch. Anything over 5/1000 of an inch or 0.005 is too far out, and they want to see it being corrected. Otherwise, you could avoid the warranty on your transmission. Next thing we're going to do is now with this bell housing, everything is all bolted up tight and ready to go. We can put this tranny back in place. As you can see, our transmission tunnel is all finished and ready to go. I put a very light amount of lubricant on the input shaft, and just to help that thing slide into place. You don't want to put an excessive amount of grease on it because it's going to fling around and end up all over your clutch plates. But just a very, very small amount just to help it slide. That Tinman transmission tunnel, still a fairly tight fit. It's not a whole lot of extra room in there. There's plenty of room for air movement, but you're going to have to take your time and make sure you're in place. So you make sure the hydraulic clutch lines are where they belong. Nicely lined up there. We're ready for the Tinman Crossmember. Go right into place. There we go. Put some bolts in there. The Tinman Crossmember utilizes 2 of the stock bolt hole locations, and one has to be drilled. Once you're done, you can see there's plenty of room for exhaust to come through. It's tucked up nice and tight. Could even potentially come in next to the tranny, although I would not go there just simply because you'll add a lot of extra heat into that transmission. Propane transmission mount, supplied with the American Powertrain's T56 kit. Good quality piece. I never tighten anything down until all the bolts are in and started. Save yourself a lot of time trying to line things up. You can move them around and adjust them a little bit if you need to. All the bolts are in place. You essentially have that transmission in place. All you got left to do is to tighten up some bolts. Put a few extra bolts in that transmission to the bell housing, and we have that installation done. Alright, here's our transmission installed. As you can see, we got clearance everywhere we need it. All the way down the sides. Looking at nice 1 inch of clearance. All our bolts are in place. Transmission Crossmember. Tinman Fabrications. Custom for 66 and 7 A bodies, I believe. The Prothane transmission mount. This thing here is looking good.